It could have been anyone at the time. Someone just said something to me, and I have no idea what the person said. I just unleashed all the anger I had inside.
You have a
me.
gun?
No.
How'd you do it?
With a piece of wood.
Did you know the guy?
No.
Were you
I had
drinking?
no idea who it was. No, I was sober.
Were you not on drugs?
No.
Well, there was a fight.
No. I was just in a bad mood. It was years of violence. The world, everything. Started when I was a little kid and I was divorced. And I was 11. My parents got divorced.
What do you think about that at the time?
I thought that my whole world had just gone to hell. Just everything fell apart. Because before my parents got divorced, I thought we had the perfect family. You know, I had everything I wanted, and I was real happy. But they got divorced, and it was like somebody dropped a bomb.
The school that I went to, my brother, my sister, myself, and I think 2 other kids were only enemies in the whole school. They would make fun of me, my culture. They would say we eat dogs. They would make fun of my eyes, stuff like that. And when I was really young, just in elementary, about 1st to 3rd grade, I would always get in fights with them during school also. So violence, I started fighting since I was in 1st grade.
By 14, I was deep into the gangs, and my mother lived in a rival gang neighborhood, and I had been jumped a few times. So I had the gun for protection from the rival gang members. And so, you know, I had already got into a confrontation once before with the boyfriend that she was involved with at the time. So I figured, well, I'm not finna fight him again, so I'm gonna scare him out of the house. I figured, you know, I put this gun in his face, and more than likely, I tell him to leave, he gonna leave. So I went in the backyard and I got the gun. And I was standing on the porch. I remember standing on the porch and I called him. His name was Raymond. I called him. I said, Raymond. And he turned around and he looked at me. And then he like turned back around and started walking toward my mother with both his fists balled. And that's when I fired the gun.
I picked up the phone and they asked for me or my brother, and I said, this is Tommy. And he started saying racial stuff at me, and I started, you know, saying some stuff back. There was threats made. He had said that the exact words were something like, you better duck tonight, we're gonna blast your house. There was no plan. We had no plan in the first place. It was just to go get him. And it went from a drive-by shooting to it. And what they actually did was walk up to the house, knock on the door, and shoot.
There was another rival gang member. We were going back and forth, you know, shooting at each other and so forth. So one day it ended up I was involved in a drive-by shooting, which resulted in a death, an attempted murder. It just seemed fun. It gave me that acceptance. It gave me the feeling that I never found at home, that nobody else ever gave me in my family.
And that feeling was what?
Love, I guess. It was love, because I
felt
felt
guys?
that. Yeah, I felt the acceptance. I felt I was part of them.
They gave me everything, love, praise, whatever I needed. When I did a crime or whatever, they praised me. Hey, right, good job, homie, you know what I'm saying? Hey, let's go buy some drinks or something. Let's go get budded out.
Did you live in any fear?
I don't think you live in some fear, but at the same time, you live in it for the excitement of that fear gives you. Fear actually gives you some excitement, some rush, and that's why you end up carrying a gun and, you know, hanging around with the gang and doing drive-by shootings or, you know, stealing, robbing and so forth, jacking people that, you know.
Life on the street was exciting.
Right. And that's one thing that we could never fail at, because we would always accomplish what we wanted to do, which was crime.
I made choices from moment to moment. I had no plan for the future, nothing. I didn't even think ahead to the next day. It was all about living in the moment, you know, being impulsive and irresponsible.
Did anybody help you with that? Did you talk to anybody who tried to? Nobody?
No. A lot of people just gave up on me. You know, if they could in school, they would just send me to a different school or kick me out, you know, make me do detention. You know, there was no one who intervened. You know, things just kept getting worse. It's hard for a youngster coming up, especially without a male role model in the house. I had older brothers who were all involved in gangs and the whole dope life, so I didn't have that positive male role model.
Where was your father?
I never met my father. I don't have a father. My mother's my father.
Although young women make up a small percentage of juveniles arrested for violent crimes, their numbers are increasing. There are almost 300 young women at Ventura, ages 13 to 24. For many of them, being locked up for murder or other violent crimes is the end of a journey that often began when they were childhood victims of violence.
My parents, they were separated when I was 8. Both of them worked, so my brother and I were home all day by ourselves. And the only thing to do was to get into trouble. That's the only thing we could find because there's nothing else really to do.
Must have been a little trouble. I mean, must have been.
Well, it was big trouble. I started drinking when I was 8, 8.5. And I was like a full-grown alcoholic by the time I was 9. Like I was abused as a child. I was sexually abused.
How old?
I was approximately 6, 7. But it happened like several different times, and there was several different people. And it's like, not dealing with that, it just builds up and builds up inside you, and it just makes you like hate the world, hate the entire world.
I didn't understand that from the age of 3 to 12 I was being molested. I felt it was my fault. And this was by multiple people. But I was never told that it's okay for you to talk about it, you're not to blame.
Did you tell your parents?
No, I never told them until I came here. My parents did not find out till I came here.
How can you tell? Gee, Mom, Uncle Larry, he was touching me. How could you even say that? It's like,
it's not realistic.
It's
I mean, you
it's a
can't
taboo.
do it. You can't do it.
A taboo?
Yeah, you can't.
And
You
it's-
don't talk about that.
As a child, you think it's your fault. There's no way that you're going to bring that to your parents' attention, or my uncle, your brother, your nephew's abusing me.
When I was 12, I met this guy, you know, I got pregnant, I ran away with him. I had a baby at 13, and I don't know, I think how I got involved in gangs.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Make me cry.
I always get like this anyways. He used to always hit me all the time. Oh, he always used to hit me, put me down, and I used to keep all of that inside of me. I think that was one of the reasons I was involved in the gang, because the homies showed me they really cared about me.
A long time ago, there were males involved in gangs, and they used to do all the criminal activities, and they had girlfriends. So it was their girlfriends. Later on, the girlfriends decided they wanted to compete with the males, and they started doing criminal activities. And sometimes when the homeboys would get in trouble, we would go out there with guns and assist them. And we would fight guys, we would stab males, we shot at people, we did everything that they did. They said, we're gonna go stealing today? Fine, we're gonna go stealing with you.
So violence and crime were just normal.
It was normal. It was normal.
Did you
It was
think about right or
acceptable.
wrong? Did you know it was wrong? Did you think...
When I was with them, it was right. I had to do it. It was the right thing to do. What it was important to me was my family, which was my neighborhood,
Your gang.
my gang.
One day, me and a couple of people just got in a car and started shooting.
You were in the car?
Yeah.
Were you driving?
No, I was not driving. I was there, but I didn't shoot at the person that died, but I was in the car and I was found guilty for murder too.
You said it was fun.
It was fun. To me, that was fun, you know. Jumping people, stealing, just doing stuff like that was fun at that time. Now I realize it's not fun anymore now.
What we did was we killed a rival gang member, and that's why I'm incarcerated for.
You were convicted
Yes.
of homicide,
Yes.
first degree.
First degree.
Was it a gun?
Yes, it was.
Illegal gun, illegal gun?
Illegal.
Where'd you get it?
Of course, illegal gun. You can get a gun on the streets. You can get it from drug dealers.
A loaf of bread.
Yes, you can get it
That's
from...
what?
Getting a loaf of bread.
A gun is as easy as a loaf of bread?
It's not easier.
The high school I went to was like the upper class high school, so all the rich kids would sell it to the little ghetto kids. It didn't matter. Someone would steal it, someone would find it. It's easy to even find a gun.
Where'd you get yours?
I mean, it was on the street. It doesn't matter.
What'd
You
you-
can
what'd
get
it
that's a
cost?
gun. $20 to $40. And that's nothing. To defend yourself, to protect yourself, that's nothing. That's nothing. To get a gun, you thinking that this person's gonna hurt me. By her actions, she didn't show me that she's out to get me. So I'm gonna get me something in my protection. I looked at her as you doing something to me.
What did you
You're
do?
not concerned with me, so I'm not gonna be concerned with you.
And what did you do to her?
I ended up killing her. By my actions. Intentionally, I didn't mean to kill her, but I was held accountable because I pulled the trigger. I had 2 crime partners, and we kidnapped this man, robbed him. We took him out. We were gonna kill him. But he told us if we took him to his grandparents' house, they would give us money, because the whole purpose of it was to rob him. And he didn't have any money on him. He only had like $20. And so being that he had already seen us, we were gonna kill him. And we had left town to go to his grandparents' house, which was like 40 minutes. So we drove for 40 minutes. And I drove, and my 2 crime partners, we were like harassing him, like really like mentally torturing him. And like, we made him sing and stuff. And then we robbed his grandparents, where there was a little boy inside who was 11. And then we brought the man and his grandfather back to the town we were in, went to the bank there, got some money out the Versatile, and then dropped them off. And the whole thing took about 4 hours. So for 4 hours, we were like torturing this man, and just because we didn't care. And like, now that I think about it, like, how could a person get to the point where I didn't care, where I let myself be involved in torturing a man?
What's the answer to that question? How did you let yourself get there? What took you there?
I think because I didn't have anyone care about me. I didn't think that I was good. I didn't think that I was important. So since nobody showed me that I was important, and I didn't have like self-esteem, I didn't care about anybody else. I wanted everybody else to be as low as I was.
Is there a profile of those kids? Have you ever done a composite of what young criminals look like and where they come from in this country?
The high-rate offenders, the young boys that commit the vast majority of violent crimes and the disproportionate share of all crimes, are the same in virtually every culture where data have been gathered. They are males. They are young. They tend to have a low verbal IQ and do poorly in school. They tend not to have many friends. They tend to have parents, one or both of whom were themselves criminal. They tend early on to experiment with drugs, whether it is nicotine or alcohol or more serious drugs. They tend to be impulsive. And they tend to have a difficulty in placing themselves in the shoes of other people and feeling as they feel. Now, at any given time, these persons account for no more than 5 or 6% of all of the young boys of a given age in an entire country. But that 5 or 6% can produce half or more of all of the serious crimes. And that 5 or 6% is roughly the same whether you measure these boys in Stockholm or Copenhagen or London or Philadelphia or Orange County, California.
What are some things we might do about juvenile justice?
I think the first thing we have to do is find out whether any state or county has a juvenile justice system that is doing a good job. At the present time, juvenile justice is the dark, unexplored land of criminology. We don't have data about who goes in and who comes out and what happens to them while we're there. All we know is that a system designed essentially to deal with runaway children and truants and young prostitutes and young shoplifters is now being flooded with young killers and their drug-dependent parents. And the system is not capable of dealing with it. We have to open this up and find out if there's a way of intervening in the lives of young people early on that makes a difference. I think the system has to be based on personal accountability, making people feel that it was not fate that led you to do this. You decided to do this, that you have to understand that you control your actions, and that the process of punishment has to begin very young, not with long sentences, but with credible small sentences that are escalated over time as the repetition and the gravity of the offenses continue.
So that the consequences are seen immediately.
Immediately. Punishment works best when it's close to the act, when it's highly certain. Severity is much less important, especially for a young person who probably thinks they're going to live forever anyway. And you can't possibly keep me in jail so long that I won't come out someday alive and well and still 27 years old. But promptness and certainty, those are the key. And the juvenile justice system is not geared to deliver prompt and certain and modest punishments. The first offense, all right, community service, in which you wear, let's say, an orange jacket that makes it clear that you're there for some unhealthy reason, but you're cleaning the beaches or the parks. The second offense, a weekend in jail. The third offense, 6 consecutive weekends in jail. And so, dealing with the most trivial behaviors, not talking about armed robbery or burglary, but small offenses, link the penalties to the small offenses early on, knowing that some will survive that process and go on to be career criminals. We don't know how to stop that. But reducing the number who drift into crime because of our inattentiveness and their belief that it doesn't matter.
No one we met is happy with our juvenile justice system. Most violent offenders never get to court. Most of those who do never go to jail. And those who are incarcerated often wind up in large facilities plagued by violence and dominated by gangs. Many come back to the streets a worse threat than ever. It's chilling to think of the future if we don't do better. We're about to experience a sharp increase in the number of teenagers between 15 and 19, those with the highest rates of violent crime. That means many more deeply troubled adolescents entering a juvenile system already staggering from overload.
We're here for sentencing today in case number 94-6477B, where the defendant was convicted by a jury of attempted first-degree murder with a firearm and armed robbery with a firearm.
This is criminal court, a court for adults in Dade County, Florida. But on this day, a 15-year-old is being sentenced for attempted murder and robbery with a firearm. In Florida and the rest of the nation, as children are increasingly committing violent crimes, more and more are ending up in courts like this, being tried as adults. Here in Dade County, more kids are removed from the juvenile justice system and sent to adult court than in any other county in the country.
As everyone in this building now is well aware, age of a defendant no longer is a mitigating factor. It's the position of the state of Florida that despite his age, what he did in this case, he deserves the maximum penalty for.
People are frustrated, people are angry, and they're being more frustrated and more angry with the younger people in our society because statistically, these younger people are committing more of the violent crime in society. They are the offenders. They are the aggressors, and society the victim of it more and more and more. And we've got to do something about it.
What Florida is doing is sending more kids and younger kids on a broader range of charges to adult criminal court. It's an acknowledgement that the juvenile justice system cannot handle them. 100 years ago, that system was designed to punish kids swiftly for minor offenses so they'd learn their behavior has consequences.
The juvenile justice system as it exists now is not providing consequences. It's not providing the child with a message that if you mess up, something will happen.
During the 1980s, Leon Botkin watched the number of kids charged with homicide explode from 20 a year to more than 100 a year. Last year in Dade County, almost 600 kids ended up in adult criminal court where they could receive tougher sentences.
In the juvenile system, the term everybody uses is they get a slap on the wrist and nothing more. And the perception is that if they're tried as an adult, that they will face jail and will get some type of real sanction some type of real punishment and potentially be incarcerated for a lengthy period of time and off the street.
There are kids that do need to be locked up, and hopefully they're being locked up. The danger right now is in locking up too many other kids that don't need to be locked up. The second danger is locking kids up for the sake of locking them up and then releasing them after 6 months or so back to the streets with the same problems they had before, and twice the likelihood they'll commit crimes.
Morning, everybody. Morning.
The atmosphere of Judge Peterson's courtroom at the Juvenile Justice Center in Dade County differs greatly from that in the adult court downtown. And that's because traditionally, juvenile justice has had a different mandate.
She's doing okay. She did good in school. She got 2 B's, 2 C's, and A and a D, and 4 A's in conduct. So she's doing good at school. But her mother said she's having some problems with her at home.
Well, the role of juvenile justice within the criminal justice system is to treat children differently. And the reason why we do that is because we don't hold children as morally accountable for their wrongdoing as we do adults.
You know, you got 2 F's and a couple of D's, and you know, he can do better than that. He scores well on the Stanford test. So there's some little, I mean, he's a good kid. He obviously is not a threat to Western civilization.
There has to be meaningful consequence for wrongdoing, as well as meaningful treatment. In other words, you have to educate children, you have to improve their personal skills, you have to address some of their damage, you have to address some of the trauma that's led up to them acting the way they're acting.
In the interest of Armando Perez, 9412399C, 94123.
Hello? Yeah, hi, is this LaToya Hunter's house?
Yes.
How you doing? This is Judge Peterson.
I'm good, all right.
Wait, LaToya's supposed to be in court this morning.
95% of the kids and families who come through here are living in poverty and living in dysfunctional neighborhoods, dysfunctional families, failing in school to a remarkable extent. The high school dropout rate of the kids who come through my court who are arrested 3 or more times is 92%.
When the police arrest a kid for a misdemeanor and it's a first offense, that child may be assigned to do community work and thereby avoid appearing here at juvenile court. If they're arrested a second or third time, they end up in this courtroom. The problem is what happens after their court appearance. Florida has a severe shortage of locked facilities or programs for delinquent kids, so there are long waiting lists.
We know that many of the programs that we send them to, most of the programs, are not locked, they're not secure. And I see the escape cases come across my desk daily.
For 5 years, have been complaining about the quality of the halfway houses. The runaway rate is something like 90% in those halfway houses.
Let me call out and see if he's here.
Judge Peterson can send kids here to this locked detention center at the juvenile court. But kids can't stay here for longer than 3 weeks. Take the case of 12-year-old Darren. He's been kicked out of several schools for fighting or carrying a weapon and ended up in Judge Peterson's court on charges of car theft. Recently, he was picked up after his curfew with a gunshot wound. The police brought him here to the juvenile detention center. Judge Peterson's only option now is to send Darren to one of those unlocked group homes or halfway houses.
Have you talked to any of your friends, any of your inmate friends around here about the group home?
Yeah.
And what have you heard about this group home?
They said it's okay and it's fun and all, but yeah, but every last person that says it's fun, they escape from it.
They escaped from it. We're now seeing the crack babies come through the judicial system. We're now seeing kids coming through the system who've actually seen their parents use drugs.
Neil Shiver is a public defender in Judge Peterson's court and often sees kids like Darren with parents lost to drugs and grandparents unable to cope with the lure of the streets.
7 o'clock curfew.
You're 12 years old, Darren.
It's just because places I be, I don't get home until I don't know.
What time do you get home, Darren?
I usually don't even come home.
We cannot go tell a parent to spend time and read to your kid. We can't tell a father, instead of buying crack, go buy baby milk. See, the courts can't mandate that. So the courts are limited on what they can do to really impact the problem.
Oh, apparently I used to swung a bat at somebody, missed at somebody, and hit somebody else.
Yes, sir.
How's she doing at home?
She's all right, sir.
The question is, what type of punishment do you give a 10, 11, or 12-year-old? Do you punish him based on the crime? Do you punish him or her based on their age? Do you punish him or her and take into consideration their economic, social background? The question is not whether or not you punish. The question is, what should the punishment be?
You have to understand that developmentally, a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old does not have the same sense of consequence that a 21-year-old does or a 22-year-old.
Mr. Harris, is there anything that you would like to say to me before I pronounce sentence? The record will reflect the defendant has walked away.
The 14-year-old kid who grows up in a community where even going to the store, the corner store, is a hostile experience and a threatening experience, and comes from a dysfunctional home and has a lousy opportunity in school, lives day to day, minute to minute, drama to drama. Consequence, however swift, however severe, is meaningless because he doesn't know he has a future, or worse, he knows he has none.
Maurice Harris, having been convicted of attempted first-degree murder with a firearm and armed robbery with a firearm, the court departs from the recommended sentencing guidelines and sentences you to life imprisonment without possibility of parole.
Maurice Harris will continue to live here while he appeals his sentence. This is the 10th floor, the juvenile floor, of the adult jail in Dade County, where kids may spend up to 2 years awaiting trial or await sentencing if they've been found guilty of a felony charge. There are about 175 kids packed in here at any one time on a variety of charges. Maurice landed here at age 14.
I think you'll find that the kids come out of prison after relatively short stays, unless they've shot somebody or murdered somebody or something like that. And everyone agrees that those kids should be in prison for the rest of their lives or for 20 or 30 years. But they make up probably 5 to 10% of the kids that you see on the 10th floor of the jail. The others are there for a whole range of things because most of them haven't committed any horrible violent crime. Most of them go to court and either put on probation or sentenced to another 6 months in jail, and they're back on the street at age 16 with the same deficits they had before. And we're losing those kids, and those kids, as it turns out, are 90% minority males. If we're going to solve our problems by locking up these males, rather than trying to educate them, train them, find alternatives to the lifestyle they're leading, that's going to have tremendous impact on the economy of this country, on unemployment, on welfare, and generally on the quality of life in our cities. And what you're seeing in the juvenile justice system really is a preview of the breakdown of the quality of life in urban America beyond the year 2000.
There are polls showing the public actually wants a juvenile justice system that deals firmly with violent offenders, but also offers treatment and rehabilitation. And there's research showing that small, secure, alternative facilities can deal effectively with violent youth if they provide intensive individual attention, if they are strongly managed, and if the wrongdoer is helped to re-enter society after serving his time. We found one such place at the end of a lonely road in Florida.
I heard when you first come here, they drive you down the road and they just drop you off, you and a staff. One of the staff here, they drop you off and you walk for about 7 miles through a swamp.
You was just walking along in the swamp and all of a sudden I seen an alligator up ahead that was in the same water we was in. And I wanted to get up out of the water and I was asking, can we please get out of this water? And so it's like, what's wrong, you scared? I was like, yes. I mean, I wasn't afraid to admit that.
Phase 1 ready for inspection? Yes, sir. Excuse me? Yes, sir.
The Last Chance Ranch is the most serious offender program in the state of Florida. These kids have actually been waived to the adult system, been found guilty and sentenced in adult court, and then they're given back to me at the ranch for one final chance at straightening their lives out.
And I first came here, they brought me to a little shack out there. I was like, man, everything's coming just like they said. And he goes, okay, well, we're gonna go out and we're gonna dig up a stump.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
When you look around, there's no razor wire, there's no shackles or leg irons or handcuffs or any of that kind of thing. The initial approach to the kids is not from an intimidation type of standpoint. We believe in discipline and we believe in strict supervision, and we have our kids under control at all times, but we do that from human being to human being. Any more snake fight anything? First thing we have to do nowadays is we have to show them, pull their pants up and put a belt on. We have to show them how to shake hands. We have to show them how to look people in the eye. There isn't a kid that's ever come here that knows how to work. Here, come on, let's get everything. Let's don't leave anything here. I've had kids tell me that they'd rather go to prison than come here. Fine. That kid, let's don't waste any more time. You want to go to prison, go to prison. I want a kid to verbalize to me initially that he wants to change, that he's going to cooperate with the program, that he's going to make an effort to do things different than he's done it in the past. As much as I love you guys and as much as I care about you guys and want you to do the right thing, I'm also here to protect the public safety. And when one knucklehead here don't want to do what's right and you refuse to cooperate with the program, then, each and every one of you have got another sentence that you can have rather than come to FBI. So,
Mr. Phil used to stand up and give speeches about how he loved us and, how he want us to change. And I used to look at him like if to say, yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? But I changed it because I know now that, all people ain't like that. You'll be surprised what you can learn right here in this small community, if you want to learn.
How are you, young man? You're looking good. Look at this, look at this.
You're going to be on him again. Might as well come on back. Greedy horse here.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right.
This is Demetrius. Demetrius left here, it was December of '92. Got out, got a scholarship, went to college, has made good grades. He's still in school. AMI just renewed, I think, his scholarship so he can continue to go to school. He's worked, stayed out of trouble. Yeah, he's driving a better car than half you staff do.
Me, my uncle, and a friend of mine, well, we was going around to different pawn shops one morning to try to find a place to pawn these rings. And I was standing at the jewelry display until I heard my uncle say to the guy, back away from the gate. And I turned and looked, and I seen that he had pulled the gun. The first thing I did was I jumped over the counter. I was trying to find a way out. I was looking for the buzzard, which I couldn't find it. And so I jumped back over the counter towards the door to see if the door would just open. And as I ran towards the door is when I heard a gunshot. And I turned around, and the pawn shop owner had a gun in his hand, and he shot my friend. And he shot at me. It was like I wanted to find some type of cover. And then I was yelling and saying, I don't have a gun. Please, stop shooting. I lay down on the floor. My friend that had got shot, he was like trembling. And I laid there and watched him pass away. It was like nothing I can do about it. I couldn't do nothing but cry. My public defender told me that if I go into the adult system, that I was looking at 25 years to life. And, I'm shaking up because I'm only 15. And, I'm sitting here thinking I'm about to spend 25 years behind bars.
Was you scared when you left here? Did you just feel like I do now?
I guess you just get overwhelmed with the fact that, dang, I'm finna go back home. You know, after being here for so long, it's like, I pay bills now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Paying rent, making car payments, insurance payments, you know what I'm saying?
You go to work, like your boss or whatever, he treat you kind of different because he knows you've been out in trouble and everything.
Well, no, you know, at first, nobody
I think places like this is the best place to go instead of going to like prison or boot camp. Because if you go to prison or a boot camp, you don't learn nothing. The only thing you know there is the same things you knew before you came in, jailhouse law and everything. Don't snitch on nobody. If somebody says something you don't like, fight them, shank them, do whatever you got to do, you know. You come to a place like this, you learn a trade before you get out. When you do get out, you got a job lined up. You got to pay your restitution while you're in here. I just paid that yesterday, all my restitution.
You want me to shoot her or you want to do it? Hold on. It's wrong to think that I could deal effectively with a lot of kids, 600 or 700 kids. And the reason why is because I couldn't run an effective family if I had 700 children. I can't personally have a relationship with every kid if I had 700 kids. I want personally to have a relationship with every kid. I want my night watchman, my cook, my education instructor, my team leaders, my staff. I want everybody here to be able to have a personal relationship with every kid here. That's the way a family should be.
Tomorrow at 12 noon, if you're working as hard as you are now, and you're showing the staff the respect and you're doing everything in the above to, you know, do what's expected of you in the program, then I'm going to bring you in. Yes, sir. But today, I'm letting you know that if tomorrow you don't have the same work ethics that I've seen you display today, then you're not going to come in tomorrow. You're going to stay out here longer.
Our society is very complex now, and our society is very high-tech now. But what kids need, what they really need in order to be successful in life is very, very old-fashioned and simple things. They need a value system. They need morals in their lives. They need goals. They need an education. They need a sense of belonging and power over their lives, and they need to be affiliated with something. That's, you know, gangs is just a form of that. It's kids reaching out, wanting to be part of something. And what we try to do here is give them the opportunity to be involved in the right gang.
Folks, I keep pushing them up.
Yeah, yeah.
Most kids will stay on the ranch for about a year, and then it's their job in phase 3 to prove that all of this stuff they've been doing is really sunk in. Before they go home, they're going to have a job. I'm going to know who the boss is. I'm going to know the address. And if they go into school, I'm going to have met their teacher. And everybody's going to know what's expected from everybody.
I mean, I hadn't really done any type of labor. And it was like being here, I mean, working and work ethic. I mean, that helped build my character, I think, a lot with me working out here. And it's like here at a few hours, the first time I ever got the chance to work and earn an honest dollar.
All right, guys, let's go. Let's get up.
This program, man, I mean, it's you incarcerated, you locked up. But they reward you for what you do. They make you feel like you worth something, man. And 9 times out of 10, they just change. They just change.
Get you a rebound. You know, I still believe in discipline. I still believe in kids doing exactly what I tell them to do. But what changes kids, what makes them different, what makes them act the right way when Philip's not around is that I love them, and they know that I love them, and they know that I care about them. And if those kids can respect me and respect my set of values and my morals and adopt those values as their own, then they're going to do what's right when nobody's around.
We believe that the best way to control crime is to punish people at the end of their criminal careers when they're adults. Now, I'm in favor of that because I think morally, legally, philosophically, punishment must follow misdeeds. And we are, in fact, taking dangerous people off the street. But if we want to slow down the flow of people headed toward the prison door, we have to intervene earlier with a wider range of dispositional alternatives that catch people at these petty gateway offenses. I think judges would jump at the chance to have some choice between, other than that now exists, between probation, which is meaningless, and incarceration, which is the last resort.
What about the current appetite to be harsher on prison sentences, to cut out the amenities, to cut out education, to cut out sports, to cut out recreation, to cut out on libraries, to really make prison a hard place?
I think that we ought to make prison a place where we can aim at drug treatment and remedial education and keep people's health better and improve their health as possible. But I think prison ought to be more certain and, for many offenders, longer in duration, but I don't think it needs to be harsher.
What about, a lot of people say that life for you inside a place like this is really better than the life you had outside. You got 3 meals a day, free medical care, recreation. People are not sympathetic to you out there now.
Okay, that's
They're
what
not.
we're saying. Okay, you're not sympathetic to us, but yet you want to change, where you want to solve the problem. How are you going to solve the problem? The problem has already occurred. You know, you're trying to stop this from occurring. You're trying to stop it from happening again. It's just a cycle.
Breaking that cycle of violence in young criminals is hard. Almost half the graduates of Ventura do straighten out.
Alexandrian.
But the other half end up behind bars again. Ventura is trying to lower the 53% recidivism rate with special voluntary programs for those who have demonstrated their desire to change. They must work while they are here, but they can also take vocational and academic courses for high school and college credit. And they can get counseling to help change their attitudes and behavior. Yeah, what do you say to people when they would argue, as they argue all the time outside, you don't really deserve a second chance. You take a life, you give a life.
I could have ended up in the chair for this crime, being in court. They gave me a second chance, and I'm proving to everyone who sent me here, who got me here, you know, a lot of people stepped in and made it possible for me to be here instead of doing life. And I'm proving that they were right, that I do deserve a second chance, you know, by going to school, by changing, by trying to help other people, by accomplishing goals.
Has this place actually changed the way you think about yourself?
There's people here that will never change because they don't want to change. If you want to change, you can change. It's all there for you. We have programs such as victims awareness, and I've also taken self-esteem classes, and that would really help me a lot.
A lot of people outside knock the self-esteem classes. You know, they say...
Because they have never been a part of the self-esteem class. If they've never been a part of it, how could they knock it? They don't know if it work or not. I know firsthand because I've been a part of it. I know the person that I was then and the person that I am now. I know how angry I was at first and how this class has made me feel the pain that I was lashing out on other people. I was capable of doing anything. I could have walked up to you and blew your brains out or something because I didn't feel. But once you really feel what you've done was wrong, it's hard to repeat it again. It's hard for you to do it again.
How long have you been in here, Terrence?
6.5 years.
How many more years you have?
To go? I go off for parole in 2.5 weeks.
Scared?
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen?
I don't know what's going to happen.
People don't do these things unless they have something that's not working for them.
Ann Moore is a volunteer at Ventura who helped design the Viewpoints curriculum. She tries to teach them right from wrong and to develop a sense of remorse for their crimes and empathy for their victims.
You need to understand how other people feel And really to... All these young people are, in fact, going to get out someday. What kind of person do you want to let out? An ignorant, angry, abusive person who's going to do it again, maybe to your wife, to your child? Or do you want somebody who is changed? Change is possible for any human being. And we need to provide the avenues for them to do that.
What do you think's happened between then and now?
I think most of us have learned to care, have learned to understand ourselves and our feelings in ourselves to be able, like Ann said, to be able to understand somebody else, you first have to be able to understand yourself. And I've learned to be able to say that I'm important and so is everybody else. And I've learned to be able to say, like, if I hit Evelyn, it's gonna hurt Evelyn. So I don't wanna hit her because I know I wouldn't wanna be hit. And so I wouldn't wanna hurt somebody else. And no matter how much the staff, the teachers, my peers tell me, you know, it's wrong to hurt somebody, it's wrong to do this, it's wrong to do that, I have to decide in myself that it's wrong.
I can remember going through this period of time of realizing what I had actually done and the pain. Over and over, I would just ask myself if I could have just seen. And it's not the time, it was the pain that I had caused. Remember seeing my mother cry. Remember seeing my victim's kids stand in the courtroom. And it didn't matter what type of mother it was that she was to her or what type of situation she put herself in. It was the point of these kids will not grow up with their mother.
My victim died in his brother's arm. Now, if I could put myself in that situation, when I lost my sister, I know how it felt, and I know how painful it was, but I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that sooner or later I was gonna realize what I had done to this family, to my victim, and the pain that his brother must have felt seeing his brother die in his arm. And it's not much of the time, because you could do the time and say, oh, it was hard or whatever, and go on with your life and maybe commit another crime or do whatever you want to do. But when you actually face to it and you see what you have done and you feel it and you feel for your victim and you really have remorse, that was real hard, because you know the rest of your life you will have that in you. You will always think of that person and what he could have done, what he could have been, and you also think about the family and with the pain that you have caused them, and also the pain that you have caused your own family.
How do you live with that? How do you come to terms with it? How do you make peace with it?
The way that I come to terms with it is by doing what I have done. I have changed. I'm a very different person than who I used to be. And sometimes in this place you get fed up and you feel like, forget this. It's easier to just go do it this way. But then you think about it and you think, I know that some people might disagree with me, but you think about it and you say, at least his life was not in vain. At least one life was taken away, so at least let my life be something. Let me do something with my life. Let me give back to someone. Let me reach out, and if I can do something to positive with my life, that would make it a lot better for me in order to live with myself. If I were to turn back to the old person that I was, I couldn't live with myself knowing what I had done.
Those young inmates are not typical of the Ventura population. They want to change, beginning with how they feel about themselves, others, and their crimes. And they're voluntarily trying to unlearn the warrior habits acquired as children. We can't tell you definitively how the Ventura program is paying off. It's only a laboratory for one modest strategy to help a few young people turn around their lives. When they get out, most of the offenders return to the same war zones that produced them. Terrence, for example, was paroled and is now living in a halfway house near his old neighborhood in Los Angeles. If he makes it, he'll need caring adults in his life, acceptance by the legitimate community, and a stable job. There are, you see, answers to violence, but none come easily. We'll explore some of them in our next broadcasts.
What can we do about violence? A Bill Moyer special will return in a moment. This is PBS, the Public Broadcasting Service. A community resource guide with tips about what you can do about violence is available free of charge by calling 336-1917 or by writing to Post Office Box 2284, South Burlington, Vermont, 05407. Video cassettes and transcripts of the series are also available at this address.
He has dominated Maryland's political landscape for a generation. His signature lies on the light rail line, Orioles Park at Camden Yards, the National Freeway, and Ocean City's restored beach. MPT presents a compelling look at one of the nation's most energetic leaders, William Donald Schaefer. It's history's first view of the Schaefer legacy. Don't miss Schaefer for the Record. A repeat of the special MPT production, tonight at 11.
MPT sheds light on a dark topic at 9.
You're in with us, or...
By the time a child leaves elementary school, she's witnessed 8,000 murders. What are we doing to our children? Does TV kill? Next time on Frontline.